speaking of just sitting around, I felt like that's what everyone just did in Westworld Season 4. Like, nobody did anything.
Oh, gosh.
By the way, people have been asking you, are you going to do a Westworld Season 4 Westwatch review breakdown video?
We'll see after House of the Dragon is done.
Oh, by the time, who will fucking care? Like, really?
Well, that's the problem, though, is that but yeah, by then no one will care. But in order for me to really like take in the series on how I liked it, I would have to give it a rewatch.
You poor soul.
I know, but the problem is that it's so much of it's so boring. So what I say about Westworld Season 4, there were some really great ideas in Westworld Season 4. I thought that, like, are we going straight into spoiling it? But it started off slow, it ended slow. The middle was quite good. And I liked the middle because once they revealed the setting and the twist that, like, actually the humans have already lost and they've been forced into a host-like role for the hosts who are now in the human role, and that we've switched everything around, and now the hosts like feel like they don't have any meaning in life and are looking for purpose in the same way humans are looking for purpose. That was a great twist, and I wanted, like, that should have been the exploration of the season, you know?
But they don't focus on it too much. It's kind of a focus here and there, but not as much, and they don't really do anything interesting with it.
Right. The abuse of the humans is only hinted at in one scene where William goes to dinner and sits down with that couple and just talks about abstractly how he's going to abuse them. But we never see any of the abuse, which is ridiculous when you think about Westworld Season 1 was all about outlining the abuse that the hosts were experiencing. We never see it, which is too bad. Like,
well, to be fair, there were two scenes where Charlotte walks through the street and she has the man play the piano, the instrument, till his fingers bleed, and she uses them as like furniture. And then the other woman at dinner, when host William comes over to find out what the fuck happened, she killed the humans, even though she's a host, and she's confused as to why she really did it. So we had like a couple of scenes. They never really did anything too interesting with it. It was just
right. And these cameos, so they have these cameos of various hosts, like Cletus at the end, and we had Walter, and we had second Clementine, and we had a couple Confederado generals. Like, rather than just having them be cameos, you could have had like whole scenes like following them in their life, or them sitting there like, enjoying the world like the humans enjoyed Westworld. We had so many scenes of the humans enjoying Westworld where we got to know what Westworld was. I really didn't feel like I knew what the world was like. Like, we were messaging each other being like, I don't understand. Does Charlotte control the whole world or just New York City? Right? Right? I thought the same thing. Like, my wife was asking that question too. Like, wait, how many people are there in the world? Like, if they destroy the Tower of New York City, does that control the hosts everywhere in the world? Like, what's going on?
That's a lot of processing power to control all the human hosts.
Not to mention, like, it would have to go over horizons and stuff. Like, right. Is it going up to the satellites? Are there other towers? Like, none. We're never told that.
Someone tried to make the argument that most of the world is destroyed because we see, I forgot the name of the villain, the guy who is using the robot, the AI mind in season 3. But the reason he decides to do what he does in season 3 is because when he was young, he witnessed a nuclear explosion wiping out like his home in the distance. And this person was saying, well, because the world's been destroyed, so there's only pockets of people living and they choose to live their life in leisure. Not true, because even in season 2 and 3, we've seen multiple locations all over the world that are fine. So yes, there are people living all over.
The fact that Westworld is in the South China Sea and we deal with the Chinese like
Right,
government in
exactly.
Westworld. Yeah, in
So
season 2. Yeah.
yeah, and so the world is largely intact. Maybe a few places are destroyed, but
Yeah.
we never really. And this whole resistance is really 10 people.
Right, if that, like, I feel like I only saw like four, like they keep getting killed, so I feel like the resistance is like 3, 4 people, like at the end, like, yeah, it seems so small. They needed so much more time. Like even when they introduced, 1920s or 1930s Westworld, like gangster Chicago, right? Like I thought we were going to explore that world a little, and then it just wasn't there. They do one walk down the street, and then they go to the bar, and then it's done. Like you created that entire set for like walking down the set. Like I thought we'd enjoy. Like at least when we went to Shogun World, like we really felt like, as much as Shogun World was a really stupid plot line, I at least felt like I was in the setting. Like I felt like I was in Japan. Like explore, like, you had these people speaking the language, you met these new characters, you saw everything. Like there, there was none of that with the 1920s Westworld. Instantly it became the Old West again with all the sand and everything, which I thought was a nice touch, like turning it into the kind of Westworld that we know. With the dust and everything. Like I thought visually that looked great, but explore those worlds a little, like slow down, like it's funny that I'm like slow down when actually the show is so fucking boring. Like how I don't, but man, like you could have had so many scenes of those cameo hosts exploring the world and like abusing people the same way that the humans abused the hosts, but it just didn't happen.
The Christina/Dolores plotline kind of blew. I didn't care.
Oh my gosh, that was horrible.
I didn't give a fuck. My favorite character, Bernard. Hello, Bernard. Bernard.
Yeah.
Hello. He comes in and has this cool power that he's seen multiple, like he has Doctor Strange's power, where Doctor Strange saw 14 million possible features, and that's a really cool gimmick. And I felt like Bernard,
it was fun. It was fun. Bernard and Stubbs was the most fun, exciting part of the whole season.
Oh yeah, of course, 110%. And I gotta say, Bernard, coolest power, my favorite character. I feel like he was barely in the fucking show. What the hell was that?
I feel like none of them were. I feel like nobody was really in the fucking show. I kind of felt like they couldn't get the stars to actually arrive on the same day, so that they had them all doing their scenes separately, right? Mm-hmm. Like I think is Bernard's only interaction with Charlotte like on a tablet, like I feel like oh, this is like the later seasons of Arrested Development where everybody like you couldn't get anyone together. Yeah.
I love Bernard's plot. I just wish they did more with it. But all he really does is walk around. I would have to go back and count how many times he's on screen. But Westworld was 8 episodes, so that's maybe 5 hours, because it's 44 minutes like around each episode. So that's 6, 7 hours around there, 5, 6, 7 hours. I think he's in it for like less than maybe an hour, 30 minutes, maybe.
Yeah, like piecing it all together, the first couple episodes are establishing that Caleb has a daughter and his friendship with Maeve, which his friendship with Maeve is fucking irrelevant. Mm-hmm. So why did we get all of that background of them becoming friends in the war and shit like that? That was dumb. Then like establishing like how Caleb met his wife and who his wife was, unimportant, because his wife, like, I don't care about his wife. Like, you want to establish the daughter, establish the daughter. That's because she's an important character. But you did not need all that time of him at the hospital, like meeting his wife and having Maeve show up at the hospital. None of that was needed. All that was wasted fucking time. So the first couple episodes, like establishing this backstory to Caleb and Maeve, was a waste of time. I mean, it had a small benefit in that it was a misdirection, because all of a sudden when you're in the middle of the season and you're like, oh shit, actually they lost. That's fucking crazy. They lost. and Bernard now is trying to save the world, and we had a time skip and everything, and
No,
it fooled people.
Incorrect. Bernard is not trying to save the world. Bernard is trying to
Oh, you're right.
kind of salvage it, maybe, perhaps.
Yeah. So my least favorite idea from Westworld is that you can reconstruct a consciousness externally. That like somebody, like when they, like after Bernard dies at the end of season 2 and they reconstruct him from Dolores' memories of Arnold, I thought that was the dumbest idea ever. Like you have such a little slice of who they are, like your observation, that how could you possibly construct somebody's consciousness? They were failing to do that when they had hats on them scanning their brains. And you're going to tell me that like Dolores observing somebody can reconstruct somebody successfully? Like it's such a huge contradiction.
Yeah.
The human, like we have an entire episode of season 2 with William's stepfather, Delos, like an entire episode dedicated to the fact that like their project of reconstructing consciousness in humans was failing, and that you can't recreate a human unless Dolores remembers them. Unless Dolores had a few conversations with them, then she can reconstruct somebody, because she's now doing that to all of society at the end.
Is that what she's doing?
I think so.
The fact that you don't know and you pay attention to this shit. I pay attention
right.
too.
Also, like I also think it's really quite funny that like, okay, we can't bring back humans. If we can scan people's brains and everything, but we can't bring back humans. They'll always break down, because we saw that with Delos and Caleb. However, if you take Dolores's pearl and pop them in a host that looks like a human, they'll essentially become that human. Like, so we have Hale and the Man in Black are brought back because they're just Dolores clones. They've essentially become those humans. But you can't recreate a human with a brain scan and everything. Like, and Dolores can just recreate people externally when she just like based on like a few interviews.
Well, not only that though, but the whole recreating conscious thing and like bringing back people essentially from the dead makes almost all the stakes not really matter, because you can just bring people back every time. So what's like it just becomes who cares then?
Right. Which is the whole thing about season 2. Like they wanted to bring people back from the dead. You can't do it. Like you just can't.
But Dolores can somehow do it because she's like super duper special for some reason.
Right. Like I was completely fine with what they did with Caleb, because Caleb is not really being brought back. Like he's being like it's not really Caleb. Like I get it. I'm fine with like the recreation of Caleb. But yeah, don't bring back the Man in Black and like have me think that like have me care about that host as the Man in Black, or even Charlotte. Like that's not Charlotte. That's Dolores. Yet they call her Hale the whole time, and she acts like Charlotte, and everybody calls her Charlotte. Like, you're not Charlotte. like I don't get it. You're Dolores. Like I watched an entire like. Oh.
But like I said, Bernard, I liked Bernard this season. Shame they didn't get a chance to do more with him. Maybe the guy was busy filming The Batman or some bullshit. I don't know. I'm assuming all these actors have other shit. To have other stuff better to do, and this is just a small paycheck. Kind of reminds me of Jack Nicholson in the what's that film where he goes, "You can't handle the truth."
A Few Good Men.
A Few Good Men. He was actually on set for like 3 days. He got paid like thousands of dollars just for being on set for 3 days. Yeah. I wonder if Bernard just filmed. The actor for Bernard just filmed all his shit in like 3 days. Because fuck. Also, do we need Maeve anymore? Is Maeve really fucking necessary anymore? Like the superpower stuff was shaky enough as it is, but
then they took it away from her. They always had to depower her, right? They had to Professor X her every season, right?
Well, they took it away from her, or they held something over her head to keep her in line, but then she got it back.
So I'm trying to go through the whole thing. So she started getting the ability to control hosts with her mind, right? And then they took it away briefly because she was running into characters that couldn't speak English. And then she was able to get beyond that and started being able to control all machines. But then this season they took it away because the hosts were upgraded. So she couldn't do it. But they always had a Professor Xer. They're like, no. Or like, she was fighting a host who was deaf, so she couldn't control him and stuff like that. They always had something. Every little thing, because it's like, just why do you even bother giving her that power? Like, why make her God to ungod her? And why was she so important?
I guess because Caleb needs a sidekick, and
no, but she wasn't like, so Bernard goes out to the desert. They resurrect her. They pull her out of the ground. Okay, that's really important that they pulled her out of the ground. They get her. And then what did they do with her? She ran into Delos and got shot in the head as a distraction?
Fuck. I fucking forgot.
He took her to the Hoover Dam to open the Valley Beyond for some reason. And then I completely don't understand really what they were doing at the Hoover Dam. Like, why they needed to open the Sublime. Like, why did they need to open that?
I'm surprised the Sublime even fucking came back. Like, just...
I was confused because wait, didn't he enter the Sublime in his hotel room and do all the simulations? So he already has access to the Sublime. So why did he want to open the Sublime at the Hoover Dam?
Because wasn't that the power source for the Sublime?
Then how was he accessing it in his hotel room?
I'm sure there are people who have, like, seriously into this show who are yelling at you right now.
I'm sure. But, like, the fact that, like, I think I'm a pretty smart guy. I know the story. Like, I certainly know the first 3 seasons really, really well. Like, really, really well. Like, I've watched the first season at least 4 times. And I've watched this, well, because I had to do the rewatch. I had to do my videos, right?
Right.
So, like, I've watched the first season at least 4 times. I've watched the second 2 seasons at least 3. So the fact that, like, I'm sitting here going, like, I understand that it's been a couple years since the last season, but I'm sitting here being like, I remember what the Sublime was. What are they doing? Like, Hale is trying to create a perfect world so that the people in the Sublime will come back. It's like, dude, you're going to fail. They've been, like, running simulations for, like, the equivalent of millions of years. Like, you have like a shitty version of New York City where your hosts get to go around, like, torturing people. Why would the people from the Sublime come out and like I don't understand your motivation, Hale.
I also thought Hale wanted the hosts to have their fun and then eventually go into the Sublime willingly.
No, she wanted them to transcend and, like, enter armless robot bodies. You saw those armless robot bodies, right?
Yeah, but I thought the whole thing is that I thought transcend means go into the Sublime. No? Because she has access to it. Isn't that
No, she doesn't, because Bernard is the only key.
Oh, that's right.
She didn't have access to it. So I think she was, like, having her own, like... They showed at least one host. Like, most of the hosts didn't want to do it. But they showed at least one host, like, going into this, like, armless robot body.
Well, what does transcendence mean, then?
I don't know.
You don't know?
I don't know. I don't know.
No one knows. No one knows.
So around episode 6, I was just like, I'm just confused. Like, so I watched somebody else's, like, breakdown video where they went through it, and he, like, brought up all the stuff that I was confused about, and then he's like, hopefully in the next few episodes we'll be getting our answers. And of course that didn't fucking happen. So like the only thing I was like, I finished and I was like, okay, it's not just me. This doesn't make sense. They're like, so he, like, presented it like, well, the big mystery here is whether blah, 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 blah is blah. And I was like, okay, we're going to look for those answers. No, like, what is transcendence? What's the purpose with the Valley Beyond? Like, what's going on? And those answers didn't come. Like, I'm like,
oh man.
Like,
oh God. That's, I know. Westworld. The other thing I wanted to say is that final episode, that shootout between host William, who has effectively become William, or the Men in Black, Man in Black, that shootout between him and Hale, and just the fight scene between Hale and Maeve, I was so bored. I've never seen a shootout so boring. I just didn't care.
The only part of the episode that I liked was the very beginning, where they were like following characters, and then a character would die and they'd follow a new character. And I thought they would do that a little more, or follow a character for a while rather, because a lot of times they're like, a character would get killed and then he's instantly killed by somebody else. I thought they would do that for a while longer. Like seeing Cletus and stuff was fun, but other than that, I didn't like, none of the action scenes really like grabbed me.
Yeah, he essentially made the entire, once again, I don't know, the world or New York City, but host Man in Black made the entire place Fortnite Battle Royale. Fucking
also, how did he drive to everybody's? I did know that, like, because my wife watched it and she likes checking like reviews and stuff right after, and apparently everybody's like, why is the Man in Black driving to the fucking Hoover Dam in like a day? Like in like half a day from New York City.
Oh, that's... I didn't realize that.
Like everybody was like, what is he doing? Like, because you're like, well, maybe it takes place over the course of like 3 days and he doesn't need to sleep so he can drive through the night. But then Hale takes her like hovercraft and gets there like at the same time, and you're like, her hovercraft is going to be way fucking faster.
For our out of country audience, New York City. Where is everyone knows where New York City is? Where is the Hoover Dam? What state?
It's near Las Vegas. It's in Nevada.
Yeah. So it basically, everyone, even people outside the U.S., you guys know where New York City is. It's all the way right next to California.
Yeah, it's a 2.5 day drive if you were or longer. It's a long drive to go to Las Vegas from New York City.
And I will say, like, the Man in Black. So okay, host Man in Black. We don't need real human Man in Black anymore, because host Man in Black has effectively become him.
Right, because if you pop a Dolores pearl into a host that looks like somebody, they'll become him. All that.
Pearl. He's made from a bit of Dolores's code. I think that's what he said.
You're right. He's off of Charlotte Dolores's code, reconstructed and popped into a body that looks like him. But so you can't recreate humans, but if you pop a code into somebody that looks like a human, they'll become them. Yeah.
That's where, like, I feel like they lost a lot of people. But, okay, William's whole story is, in Season 1, he feels as though something a part of him... Correct me if I'm wrong. He feels as though, in Season 1, something a part of him is missing, and that Ford has the answer to this, and that it has to do with the maze. He feels as though the maze is... At the end of the maze, he's going to find something about himself, but it's really not about him.
Right.
In Season 2...
Season 1 doesn't make sense. Season 1 doesn't make sense. The Man in Black is by far the thematically the weakest part of all of Westworld. I will make that statement.
I disagree, kinda. Yeah. So
he like all the other stuff, all the other themes about like human existence and the Dolores stuff, and like and bicameral minds, and like the voice within yourself, the voice inside you being yourself, like all of that, like I'm on board with. The Man in Black stuff is just, it's nonsense. It's nonsense completely from season to season. Nonsense in Season 1, nonsense in Season 2, nonsense in Season 3, nonsense in Season 4. It is always nonsense, the Man in Black.
Well, the Man in Black in the original Westworld film is just like a robot guy. He's designed to be a bad guy. Yeah, he's just a robot, yeah. But like William's whole thing is, when he was younger, he was a psycho. And then he went to therapy and he got better. And then that's the William we see in the past timeline in Season 1. In the future timeline in Season 1, he feels as though the answer to why he's so fucked up is at the end of the maze, but then he realizes the maze is not really about him, it's about the host. Then in Season 2, I guess his whole journey is searching if the reason he's so fucked up and such a piece of shit is maybe because he's a host programmed that way, and then we learn that, no, you're just an asshole piece of shit. And then Season 3 is him coming to terms with all this, and then somehow wanting to decide to save the world. Because he literally says, I'm here to save the fucking world. And then
Yeah.
in season 4, one of his final moments in the entire show is
Just wants to burn it all down.
he wants to burn it all down because fuck it. And I will say, the penultimate episode's ending, where host William is walking towards New York City on fire, that would have been a great ending to the season, but of course, they had one more thing up their sleeve. But no,
I
like,
know.
William's
No,
whole
I mean,
journey
it makes it. The William makes much less sense than that, because like his motivation in season 1 is he likes Westworld because Westworld is more free, is more like the real world than the real world, but he wants Westworld to be more like the real world because he wants to give it stakes. But at the same time, he's looking for the end of the maze because that maze is the real game. But it turns out the maze is nothing. And you're like, well, wait, do you like Westworld the way it is? Or why do you want to change? If Westworld is superior to the world because it's more real, then why do you want to make Westworld more like the real world with stakes? Like, it fundamentally doesn't make any sense. Like, having watched season 1 a lot and really knowing season 1, there is absolutely no logic to the Man in Black. He is a fucking idiot. And then in season 2, he has a simpler plot of like, well, maybe I've been a host the whole time. How do we know like what's real? And then season 3, his him going insane and going into his backstory, deciding that he wants to save the world or something. And then just season 4, like out of nowhere, now he just wants them to like burn everything down. Humanity is hopeless. And everything related to humanity is hopeless. So we need a clean slate. Okay. Just none of it makes any sense.
I don't even think we're going to get a clean slate, because so many characters have said this is the end of intelligent life as we know it, or sentient life as we know it.
Yeah.
So
I mean, you'd have to wait like a few more million years for a new species to evolve. Is the idea. Yeah. I think that's the clean slate he's talking about. Like allowing like whatever the bees or or dolphins or something to eventually evolve to being like over a course of millions of years to being the new intelligent life form on Earth.
Yeah, and so real quick, I did a very, very small, very brief video about it. They did the thing again. I don't think they did it in season 3, but we got it in season 1, of course, one of the best twists in television history. Williams, 2 timelines.
Yeah.
We didn't see it coming. Super cool. In season 2, they were doing it the whole time. Whatever. Here, it was kind of cool, but at the same time, I've already seen it so many times before that it's kind of become like a whatever gimmick. I'm not saying they did it in a bad way. It's just I've seen it before. What else? You got?
I mean, I thought they pulled it off fairly well. I was fooled. I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. The humans have lost the whole time. It was fine. It wasn't like mind blowing, gut punching. And then the reveal at the end of like, it was like Dolores' timeline is all a simulation, and that Teddy is really herself. It's like, who cares? Like, I don't know who you are. I don't know who you are. Like, who are you, character? Like, oh, Christine is actually a random program that Charlotte created. Why should I care about you? You're not even Dolores. Like, you're like a few iterations from Dolores, right? Like,
So, if there is a season 5, which Ed Harris, the guy who plays the actor who plays the Man in Black, he said that we're going to start filming next spring. Season 5 is
ratings were horrible though. Ratings were horrible for this season.
Yeah, I was about to say, like, it would really, if they got picked up for a season 5, I mean, sure, but like 5 episodes. You don't need like 8 episodes for this bullshit. But okay, how the fuck did this boring shit how does someone look at this boring crap and go, yep, that's it, put it out, and then go ahead and cancel Raised by Wolves? How the fuck did that happen?
I don't know. I mean, maybe they reduced their costs a lot. I know that this season was mainly filmed on like a Disney Mandalorian like loop screen. Okay. So it might be a lot cheaper than the previous seasons that were like filmed on location and stuff. Mm-hmm. And they seem to have they've reduced the cast, so it might be cheaper. So
Reduce
I
the
don't know.
cast.
Like,
Like a good chunk of the cast like aren't even in it. Bernard doesn't even come in until episode what, 3?
right. So I think like, obviously you're going to save a lot of money with no Anthony Hopkins and stuff. And this just, you sort of say, okay, well, we'll bring back these names, but you only have to do like one day of work and then we're going to splice your scenes together. So, it's actually unfortunate for Westworld that a lot of the actors became, a lot of the actors have become really successful outside of Westworld, as opposed to Game of Thrones, where none of the actors are really successful outside of Game of Thrones.
Kit Harington had a brief moment. I would argue that Richard Madden has become somewhat successful. Sean Bean was always successful. Lena Headey on some level had his success. Yeah. The guy who plays Jaime Lannister, he had some roles. Maisie Williams had some roles. I think Peter Dinklage has a fairly okay career. The other one,
they're all okay, but I have to say that Bernard's actor, remind me his name again. It's Jeffrey Wright.
Jeffrey Wright and the woman who plays Maeve, Thandi Newton.
Yeah, I mean she was as successful as before, but I want to say that like. Tessa Thompson and Jeffrey Wright have both become like much bigger since the show has gone, and so they might be demanding more money. But
who I thought would be demanding money is the woman who plays Dolores. I thought she would be, I thought she would like go off and do other things, but I haven't really seen her in much.
Oh, it just reminded me, by the way, looking at the cast list, I was just reminded how much I fucking hated the Clementine thing in the finale. The finale.
Oh, she just shows up for an action scene and then kills Stubbs. Stubbs gets like no respect.
But also like it's been 4 seasons and Clementine has never really had a personality. Right? Mm-hmm. She's never really had a personality. We're like, who is Clementine? And then she gets this speech where you're like, oh, Clementine now has a personality. She's somebody. Oh my gosh. And then she goes and gets killed. Like immediately after, like she's finally introduced as a real character. Like what is Clementine? Like we don't know who Clementine is because season 1, she was in a host loop. So we don't know who she was. And then season 2, she's a lobotomized. So we don't know who she is. She's only in season 3 for one scene at the end. And then here, she's like a servant and doesn't say much until the very end she gets her speech. We finally get a Clementine personality, and then she goes off to immediately get killed. So fucking crazy. What the fuck is going on? Like, anyway, let's
talk about Hale and how ridiculous killing herself for whatever the fuck reason.
That was just not Hale's personality at all. You watched like a 5-second Bernard short and you're ready to commit suicide? Like, what is that? Like, if only they could have done that earlier. Bernard, just send like, is it like The Ring where he like sends a video of himself to people and then they just die? Like, is that how Jeffrey Wright deals?
I guess
like
so.
Bernard's got a talent for convincing people to kill themselves.